air, the cattle, and yes, earth itself. And every animal that moves on the face of the earth. God created human beings. He created them godlike, reflecting God's nature. He created them male and female. God blessed them. Prosper, reproduce, fill earth, take charge, be responsible for the fish in the sea and the birds in the air, for every living thing that moves on the face of the earth. That's why I like this translation. It sort of gives you it in a very modern way. So let me just go over some of the points I do want to talk about. Let us make human beings, he said, in our image, to make them reflect our nature. Let them be responsible. And we're talking about relationship. And it says he made them. And he said, prosper, reproduce, fill the earth, take charge, be responsible. So, here is it that when you think about God, God was not lonely when he made man. God, when you read Moses' Psalm 90, it says from everlasting, from eternity past to eternity future, you are God. So God was way back in eternity past. It's hard for us to imagine that there was God, that there was an eternity past. The first time it came together. And you can imagine an eternal future, but how can you imagine an eternal past? But that's what Moses said, that there's an eternal past and there's an eternal future. And yet, there are different calculations based on most calculation. Biblical scholars says human beings are on the earth for about 6,000 years. You're talking to the scientists here about how many hundreds of millions of years we are here, right? But then it couldn't be true because the earth would be overpopulated for hundreds of millions of years. We won't get into that. But here is God in eternity, in his eternal past. Whatever point, we're not sure when the angels were created. We're not sure if there were other creations. Because when you read Revelation, it seems as though there were other creations. But before all this, maybe there are other worlds outside of our worlds. And in heaven we'll meet all whatever other beings from the other worlds. But there was a point in the eternal past when God was alone. And yet he did not create human beings. He created human beings in order to share fellowship. He created human beings in order to share his life. But more so to have a relationship. That is why I tell people that you cannot reach your highest good without God. It is impossible. You can achieve good things. You can achieve great things. But I tell people all the time that Michael Jordan did not reach his highest good. If what he did it without God. And Bill Gates have not reached his highest good if he did it without God. And Steve Jobs that we hear is now sick really badly, who runs Apple. He has not reached his highest good. There's nobody, none of us, can reach our highest good without God, because God, the purpose of creation is to have a relationship. And there's nothing that takes preeminence over that. It doesn't matter. Sometimes we get so caught up with, our own desires and needs, because life is complex and it's filled with a lot of needs. You know, we need so many things to exist. You know, from the place I hate to go is the pharmacy. I said, geez, why do I have to come into this place where I have to fix myself? I have to get something to fix something, you know. But the whole thing is that humans have physical needs. We have social needs to socialize with each other. And we like to socialize in different ways. Some people like it raucous and loud. Some people like it nice and quiet. Some people like it with big crowds. That's why they go to the football game in the stadium where it holds 110,000 people. And some people just like it one-on-one with somebody. But we all like to socialize. But relationships, the purpose of God really created us is really for relationship between us and himself and with each other. But as we know about the fall, because Satan entered the world, I'm not afraid of rebuking Satan because he came here without permission. He came here illegally. That's why I denounce him and I don't care because he don't belong in my life. You know, he was invited and whatever he gets, he has to take it because he invaded earth and came. But here comes the devil, and we know about the fall. A very simple sin in many eyes. The sin that was just the eating of something. But it appears so simple. But then, I don't want to get into it, but God actually put you see, there's in terms of relationship, there has to be abstinence. That's one thing that God taught. In relationship, there has to be a fast. When God said, do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it was a fast. If you notice right through the Bible, there's always a fast. There's a fast in the garden, then after the fall, they were to fast certain foods. Like I heard that the pork tastes nice tonight. I didn't eat any. The pork, but then you notice they were talking about the unclean meats and the clean. And then Jesus broke the fast and he came, he said, eat anything you can. It can't defile you. Whatever you eat, it does not, it cannot defile you because it goes in your stomach and whatever, and it goes out of your body. So Jesus ended that fast with clean and unclean. So what I'm saying, then there's always an abstinence from something. And so when it comes to relationship, and I try to tell my kids this, that even in terms of career, did you know that many of the people that you watch in sports, like, to think about like Allen Iverson, he doesn't play basketball anymore. But I understand that it's caught between, he was a running back or wide receiver, I don't know much about football. I mean, he was small, but he was playing with a great football player. And he came to a point where he had to give up one thing in order to achieve another thing. Some people you see, I'm surprised to know that even some of this guy who used to play for the New York Yankees, he was a great musician. But there come a time when he had to sacrifice, he had to choose whether or not he's going to play music or he's going to play baseball. He was good at both. And so that's what relationships is kind of about. Relationship is about self-denial. Self-denial. That is why here we have in this text, God made man, and first what God did was to deny himself. The Bible says God rested. How can the eternal creator rest? Paul explained the rest. He said God Sabbath. How could God Sabbath? Paul said he could not have Sabbath because the world would fall apart. When he Sabbath or when he rested is actually when he stopped doing his work, all this work that he's been doing from eternity past. He stopped doing it in order to do our work. In other words, God in order to merge the relationship, he sabbath. He rested. As Paul said, he did not rest. He cannot rest. He works every day. Jesus said, I work and my Father works. He's that too. My Father works every day. If God doesn't work, the world will fall apart. But he's saying that God changed his course of action. God changed what he was doing in order to look after us. So he sabbath. So in relationship, in every relationship, you have to sabbath. You have to put some things to rest. It's amazing how, when you think about it, that even God had to give up something in order to make something else work. And isn't it true that many of you who are in here, since you got married, those who are married, you had to sabbath. Isn't it true? Yeah. You have to sabbath. You used to probably go on Friday night, so you say, hang out with your buddies. But now you're married, you have to what? Sabbath. You have to put that to rest. You may still do it, but you know you can't do it as often. There's some things I'm sure you would like to do right now. But maybe because of the family, children, you have to sabbath. You have to rest that in order to make the relationship work. And it is same way if you're in a relationship and sometimes you're even having problems, whether it is I'm going to come and talk about the wife-husband relationship. Just get the thing about relationship. But sometimes you're even in a relationship and certain things that are meaningful to you is creating problems in the relationship. It's very meaningful to you. Or maybe it's not even important to you. Like my son, this boy bother me every day to change his phone. He just got a phone in March. He didn't like the phone. This boy, when I was driving up here, I said, when I go home, tomorrow, I'm going to get him to change, let him change the phone. Because he's making my life hell. I don't know if he goes to school and he sees other people with another phone and he just goes to give my heart a rest. So in order for me, I'm going to have to sabbath. Because a phone don't mean nothing to me other than making a call and receiving a call. It's the truth. My phone, I don't care about anything. I really like the texting now I get into it because I don't have to talk long, you know. You know when you call somebody to talk 1 minute, you talk 1 hour, so the text kind of work out. You know, and something like that. But the thing is, for me, a phone is not, but to him, the phone is the world, it's 18, and it's everything is his world. So while I was driving up here, I said, I'm going to sabbath. I'm going to rest how I feel about phone and try and see how he sees phone. For him, phone is like he wants his iPhone. So, right? So sometimes in order to make a relationship work, if you are having problems with your wife, with your spouse, with even someone at work, sometimes you have to put some things to rest. You see what I'm saying? The Bible says God sabbath, he rested from his work in order to do our work. Because we are not easy to take care of, you know. If you don't believe me, try and take care of a sick person, a sick loved one. It's very demanding. I want some water. You give them the water. You put some ice in it. You put ice in it. Oh, you put too much ice. You make a cup of tea, you give it to them. Why the tea cold? It is like water. You heat it up. Yeah, you're going to burn me up. That's not it. Put me up in the pillow. They say, oh, all right. No, you put me up too high. No, you put up too low. It's very hard. We are hard to take care of. Yeah. So that God God rested in order to make the relationship possible. And so, why is this thing doing this? It's trying to connect to the internet here. Alright, so that is my first point. For heaven's sake, if we are going to make some relationships work, you're going to have to put some things to rest. Something that bothers your wife, you're probably going to have to put that to rest. Oh gosh, why did you get this man to come here tonight? But it's true. There are some things you're going to have to put it to rest. It bothers, she loves shoes, and you hate to see money just, she don't even wear them. But then, she collects shoes. She's a shoe collector. And it bothers you. You have one pair of shoes and you are satisfied. And she have 100 and she just put it to rest. The better you sabbat it and say, oh, I like this one, you know. Because if the more you quarrel over it, then it might create more problems in the relationship. So remember this. In order for some things to work, you have to put certain things to rest. And for God to put creation, God, I was studying, it says God's work is to create. And if there are a lot of different views if God is still creating. Because when you read Revelation, it says, we sing the song, thou art worthy to receive glory and honor and power, because thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are, and they were created. So the word "are" there is kind of implying that God is still creating, right? There are many people who are, but I don't want to get into that. The fact is that if God's work is the work of creation and He put that to rest, you see what I'm saying? He loves to make things. He made an angel and said, that's good. Then He said, I better make an angel. Oh, nice. Then He said, let me make some cherubims. Oh. Let me make some seraphims and make them out of fire. Oh, bird. He loves to create. But He puts that to rest in order to make the relationship possible. Do you get what I'm saying now? Yeah. There are some things that are important to you. There are some things that are meaningful to you. But you might have to put it to rest so that you don't have a divorce. And divorce is expensive. I have never been divorced. Well, it's expensive. Losing the house and she's gone, you still have to support.
Losing your mind?
Yeah?
Losing your mind?
And it's difficult. So sometimes you have to put something to rest. Let me move on from that one. I think you get that one. And I hope that you get next one here in this relationship. Let me read that. Let us make human beings. You cannot make something and you're not leave it. You're not responsible for it. That's why even when you go and buy a car, they give you a warranty. There's a certain responsibility to something when you make it. You cannot go and create a relationship and say, you can't, okay, let me get raw. You toy your car, make a baby, and you're not responsible, man. You get me that? Especially to the younger fathers. If you told you make that child, then you're responsible for it. You see what I'm saying? So in terms of relationship, in terms of with children, or whatever else, whatever you do together. And remember, notice what God said. Say, come let us. It's plural. It's Elohim. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. He said, let us. So because the Trinity, so Jesus never afterwards said, boy, Father, it was your idea. I don't like them. If I ever come here, then I kill our Father. You see what I'm saying? Jesus said, I'm not coming afterwards and say, God, it was your idea. Father, you would say, come let us. It wasn't my idea, I just follow you. You see what I'm saying? Because they agree, the Trinity, God is one, to create man, then they take responsibility towards man. So whatever you create in a relationship, when you create a relationship, you get married, you're responsible for that marriage. Because you create that union. You see what I'm saying? If you, whatever it is, you buy a house together, you're responsible for that. You're responsible to the house. Because both of you created that. So God did not just make man and leave him. He was, anything you make, anything you buy, whatever you do, you're responsible for it. And also the laziness is one of the problems in relationship that destroy relationship. I have a thing. My old wife asked me to put up some shelves in the laundry room for a long time. I just procrastination. Keep putting it on. Yes, dear, I'll do it. But it's not done. Responsibility. Everybody say responsibility.
Responsibility.
No, God gave man responsibility. That's why, for me, like, for example, my son on the phone, one of the things that I haven't given him the phone yet is that I want him to learn to be financially responsible. Us to be responsible towards each other. That is why we have accountable to each other. That is why we cannot say that we are not our brother's keeper. Because he said take dominion. The MSG says, the Bible says, take charge. You have to be a man. You know, when I was doing sociology in college, the one thing the professor said, you never say to a lion, be a lion, but you will say to a man, be a man. You get it? Because there's, you know, a lion can grow up just being a lion by having the mane and being male. But just being male does not really make you into a man. Do you understand? So that's why he's saying take charge, take charge. You know, okay. How can I give an example? I have two boys who play basketball. One of them played for high school, grade 12, just last year. I took him down to Cleveland, Ohio, and one of the major league scouts from one of the NBA teams saw him. I was so much over him, but he had to go to college 1 year first. I never knew he was playing against college guys. Yes.
What school did you go to?
I'm not going to speak. I'm coming because I'm not really supposed to say this because it's a long story where the NBA not supposed to. They were supposed to approach a high schooler. They didn't know he was a high schooler. They thought he was playing because he was playing against college, so they were really all over him. That question's out of this time.
So what's the team name? Like what team did you play for?
No, we just went down there on we didn't go. We just put some guys together. I'm sort of losing my thought here, but because of the questions, but I'm sort of losing my thought there. But anyway, yes. So we went down there, and I'm losing my thought. It might come back why I brought that up. But anyway, we went down there. They were all over him, and he comes back, and now, as I say, I lose my thought. But one of the things that I had to do was to hire a private coach for him, and he has to take responsibility, if that was what I wanted to say, towards building himself, like things that he used to do and fool around. Now he has to drop a lot of those things now and focus in on doing that. I'll come back. Sorry, your question threw me out of it. I'm not supposed to say, right? Because they should not approach him. And if anybody find out that an NBA scout approach him, they say it can be some problems because they weren't supposed to talk to him. So that's why I was like that. Anyway, one has to take charge. You have to, yes, this is what I'm saying now. Now, a person, in order for a person to be like him now, for him to be, right now he awake, he realized he never knew he was that good. He never knew. All along he always said, yes, this is what I wanted to say. Before that, when he used to play, he would never take charge on the court. The boy would go out there and say, when he come back and say, why he didn't play? Boy, the guys are big, you know that. Okay, the other guy was calling for the ball. He always, but that day when we went down to USA, he was the best player we brought down. So he had to take charge in order for us to win the game. That's what I'm saying. But when he's playing with other guys, he wouldn't take charge. So nobody noticed him. You see what I'm saying? He played and nobody noticed him. But one day, he went down there and nobody was playing good. And he decided to take charge. And all right away, scouts now are all over him. Because what happened? All along, he did not realize his fullest responsibility until he takes charge. You see what I'm saying? So my point is, as the King James says, take dominion. You have to take charge. It is in taking charge that you realize your fullest potential. If you are just standing by and watching, you know, you will never realize your fullest potential. And in relationships, sometimes something is going on in the relationship and you are waiting for time to solve the problem. But sometimes you have to take charge. Sometimes as a pastor, I have to take charge in church. And sometimes some people leave the church. But if I see certain things getting out of hand, I have to take charge and get involved. I just last week, not too long ago, a couple, they're just behaving badly and they want to be separated. They want divorce. And I had to take charge and go in the relationship without even maybe their permission, and said, listen, you guys are destroying each other, you're destroying the children. You see what I'm saying? In relationships, somebody has to take charge. When he says that you must have dominion, it means don't just sit back and watch things happen. Take charge. And if I should refer back to my son, from the time he learned to take charge, he went into a game, 3 guys, they called timeout, they double team him, they can't stop it. They triple team him, they couldn't stop it. But for all this time he's playing, he was always passing the ball. The game finished, he scored 7 points. You see what I'm saying? All along he had this ability in him, but he would never take charge. You understand? He's playing with guys, giving guys the ball who would miss, and then he come back and say, but as soon as he takes charge, all of this ability begins to come out. So in relationships, you have to take charge. Have dominion. Okay. Then the next thing is in relationships. We have authority. Now, here's one problem with relationship. One problem we have with relationship, especially in Canada, in North America. There's this young lady I'm corresponding with in India. The father is a pastor and they have some churches in some villages that he go around and preach. And he actually preach outside to them. So then he preach in the rain and the mud and they send me all these pictures. Because they don't have any place. Matter of fact, it's amazing that once he's preaching, one of his main churches, the church is so small that only he and the deacon can hold him there. And then the people are outside. I mean, you can see that picture. So he's inside preaching to them outside. amazing. But I was talking to him, he has an 18-year-old daughter. She's helping him. And she corresponds a lot with him. And one day I was talking to her, and I was talking to her, I wanted to know more about India and the thing. And she was telling me that her father is the one that is going to choose her husband for her. And I said to her, how do you feel about that? She said, that's the right thing to do. So I was telling her that, like, you know, in Canada, young people choose their own partner. That the parents may advise them and guide them, but they make their own free choice. And she replied to me, I don't want to talk about this anymore. My father is going to choose my husband for me, family. Because within that culture, authority is clearly defined. You see, in relationship, there has to be authority. Okay, look at work. When you go to work, depending on where you work, how big your company, how it's organized, you have the CEO, then you have management, then you have supervisors, then you have senior workers, then you have the other workers. You see what I'm saying? In a common workplace, right? You know your place within that company. You know that if you want to be promoted, you have to probably behave yourself. You have to get to work on time. You got to probably do some extra studies, and etc., etc., right? And so you climb up the ladder within the company. And every position is clearly defined. So that's why in a workplace, if you really find two people fighting fists in a workplace, so even though they don't like the supervisor, they go chat him in the lunchroom and hate him, you see. Right? But they still listen to him. Right? Because everybody's position is clearly defined. But in regular relationships, sometimes the position of authority is not clearly defined. For example, did you know even now a man and a woman is married? You know that even in Malvern, Canada, positions are not clearly defined. How about that, right? Once upon a time, you know that the man was the head of the house. Right? And we still say it, but sometimes that is just mere words. Sometimes we know who is the head of the house. We will know. And if we even say it in this setting, we dare not go home and say, you open the Do you see what I'm saying? Decisions can be difficult. And conflicts are more plentiful. I'll give you another example. In an Arabic family, even here in Canada, a Muslim family, it's clearly a fact. The father is the head of the house. And then the mother, and then the oldest son. So, say you have two sisters before you. Yes, you are talking. So he has two sisters ahead of him. One is 20. How old are you? 17. One is 20. The other one is 19. You're 17. It is clearly defined in the house that when he gets to 18 or whatever, he is going to be next to his father. He's going to be the next in order, even though he has two sisters older than him. Because it is very clear. You understand? In that culture, the positions of authority is very, very clear. And if you step outside of it, you get punished. There's consequences, whether they are mild or they are harsh. There are consequences for stepping outside the boundaries of that authority. But one of the problems why we have a lot of conflict, it is because sometimes the position of authority is not clearly defined. Who is really the head? If you have two older daughters and the last boy, those two girls go look at you, you're gonna be. And start with position of authority. It's when one person within that hierarchy don't like their position. When that person figure they don't belong in that lower rank. And that's why you find that they will, even among lions, that is why if you see a pride of lion, and then one of the young boy get up and get feisty, and then he start to growl, and the daddy growl at him and he don't move. Before you know, the daddy will cut his throat, he's got to go. He will kill him. It's true. Even though it is his son and he protects him all his life, as soon as he gets big and he decides when he goes and the boy don't move. And if you ever see the boy moving around one of the females, oh my God, he's gotta go. He's gotta go. So the position of our authority is very clear. And then most of you know that many times that young lion go out there, learn to hunt by himself, comes back and kills the father and takes over the pride. Challenge comes back. What I'm saying is that when in relationship, even when the positions of authority are clearly defined, there's a possibility that there is somebody in the lower rank that wants to overthrow the one in the higher rank. That one there is ambition and will. Does not, that one, even among animals, does not feel content down here. As a pastor, I have experienced it. We are in church, there are some people who don't feel content being a deacon. Some people don't feel content being my assistant. They want my office. And sometimes I see it, and I have to say, hey, listen, we love you, but if you're not content, and if you can't bring yourself to it, I'm sorry, but we have to back up. See what I'm saying? Because suddenly, in relationships, one of the things that causes conflict, one of the things is, that is why once you begin to talk to your wife, she's not content being down here. I have my job. I have my university degree. I work my own money. I have to pay mortgage here. I pay bills. So she's not content here. You know, I've known a lot of Sikhs and a lot of Muslims who moved to Canada. They were content in their position. And they moved to Canada. And suddenly the wife down there realized, I don't have to take this no more. I don't have to take it no more. You know when you see the man walking in the front, you ever see the Muslims walking? The man walking in the front and the woman pushing the stroller and holding the baby hand and pushing. You ever see it? The stroller is loaded with stuff and a baby, and she has to be holding one of the other liquor one hand, and she two hands, and the man is walking with his free hand. After she came to Canada and do it for a little while, she said, no way! And after she found out that she can leave him, I get supported. Leave him, I get half. And that's another point. Let me just talk about the habit to talk about support system. Let me just say, I didn't intend to bargain support system. Without support, people can't do things. Anytime you see people separate or divorce, there was a support system. Somebody said, left a man, leave him. There's always a support system, or there's a support system which says, maybe she think, oh, but if I leave it, I don't have to take this. We sell the house, how much equity? You understand? Oh, but 100,000, I get 50,000. There's a support system. If there was no support system, the person who is beneath here would be, you understand, would stay content. But once this person has support, any form of support system, the person might rebel against this one. So what am I saying? Let me try and say that. Authority. One of the problems in North America in relationships, why with marriage, especially, the positions of authority are not clearly defined. Not clearly defined. And I'm not telling you to go home now and define it. Because you're going to get yourself in trouble. You're going to say, boy, I'm sorry I went to that retreat. It's going to break my mind. But do you see what I'm saying? The position at your workplace, they're clearly defined. In politics, it's clearly defined. There's the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance. Yes, it's clearly defined. Leader of the opposition, clearly defined. In a relationship, it's not that clear. Who is really the head? Who has the last thing?
Our voices are deep.
Huh?
Our voices are deeper.
Yes, but a voice, what about her pocket might be deeper? Your voice is deeper than her.
He's only 17, so you can see that.
Let me follow you up on that. You know what? It is proven that most of the girls are now leaving school and going to university. The boys are leaving, go get a trade or go work. So the women are now getting more and more educated and the men are less and less educated. So you have a deep voice, but what's in your head?
I'm going to university.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not talking about just you. I'm talking about relationships. Sometimes you have a man with a big, deep voice, but he has a shallow pocket. It's a big, deep voice, but he has a shallow head. See what I'm saying? So who is really in charge here? Where is the position of authority? And when you're in a relationship like that, the one thing you have to do, I would advise, don't fight for your position. Don't fight for it. Because if you're going to fight over a position, I'm in charge, you're going to ruin the relationship. Okay, let me just move on. Let me try and wrap this up so I don't keep you long until you start sleeping. One of the problems why a position of authority also don't work, one of the disadvantages is abuse. One of the reasons, I was around in the 60s when I was a little boy. But before my time, and even during that time, the position of authority was clear. The man was the head of the house. But even further back, it was more so. But what happened is that men abuse their authority, their position of authority. You know, some people can abuse their position of authority. For example, women were not allowed to vote. It was what they called men alone were allowed to vote. Men alone were allowed to run for offices, political offices. Men alone were allowed to own property. Women were not allowed to own property. Men alone were allowed to decide on marital status, to get married or to divorce. A woman could not divorce her husband. They brought in a bill called the woman suffrage. And the first country to adopt it was New Zealand. And this was in 1893. And then Australia was the second in did I say 1993? Yes, it's 1893. And Australia followed in 1895. It was in the 1900s that the United States and Canada allowed women. And even in the 70s, women were still fighting for some of the the basic rights. So because sometimes us men, that's not just women are now abusing their rights, you know that? You know women are now abusing the rights they get. Abuse. But we, us men, maybe not us, but those who are before us, you know what I mean, abuse the position of authority. And because of that, it was, when the women came in and saying no and begin to wrest it away, it sort of now split it up till we don't even know who is in charge no more. We're not even sure who is in charge anymore. Because did you know that up into the 1970s, if you wanted to go to certain schools, you couldn't, like medical school, you could hardly get into a medical school. Why? Because they said there was a short ratio, or even to the 1990s, short ratio of women, professional women, compared to professional men, and they wanted to create a balance. So you go and apply to go to university, you are more qualified, but they didn't accept you as a man. But they would take a woman that was less qualified. And they did it even in the police force. And they did it in many workplaces. You got to apply because the government came in and said there must be equality of the sexes. So a man could be well qualified. But because the government said, okay, no, we have to balance it out, too much men. Yes, they had to get more women. So what happened is, due to all of these systems, what you have is you have the equality of the sexes, and because of the equality of the sexes, especially in relationship, the positions of authority is not defined. And I am, as a pastor, I marry people. I do a lot of weddings. And my gosh, the amount of divorces. And most of it is about not agreeing with the other person. The purpose of authority is to settle matters, you know. Sometimes when there's like a conflict, like you came to be like, my two kids are fighting over this, and I said, no, you take the top. You go, you give it to me. You see what I'm saying? When there is conflict, you need somebody to come in. That's why people go to court and let the judge decide, because these two people cannot resolve their problems. But maybe what I'm saying might be sounding a bit confusing. What I'm saying is, in relationships as we have it now, we have to do what we call substitution. Substitution is you giving up your right in order to make peace. You giving up your right in order to let it work. So that's what relationship is now. It is, you see what I'm saying? It's many times giving up in order to make it work. But I know some people, like some of my kids, they will give it up, but they're vexed like anything. You know what I'm saying? I might say, okay, give it to him. But the other one is not. Eh? There are many times I go into a relationship and I would say, man, why don't you let go for the peace of it? You let go, but you're vexed. You see what I'm saying? You don't make it about, but inside of you. You see what I'm saying? So you can't just let go to stop the outward conflict. You have to let go and learn to let go inside of you. Does it make sense? Yeah. Inside of your heart, you have to find a way to let go. Inside. Because if you only let go outside, then it's going to eat you out. It's going to eat you out inside. Let's go back to the shoes. Every time she buy a pair of shoes, you vex. Because she figures she has the cupboard full of vegetables. And you decide that why I say nothing more about the shoes. But you cuss about something else. Because you're angry inside. So, let me see how I can wrap this up. So, I was talking to a couple the other day. I was telling them, in order for your relationship to work, the financial problem, two of them spending. I said, which company ever go and see two bosses spending money? Hey, they have one accountant, all money goes through him. I said, you will never prosper as long as the two of you spending. And here the wife said to me, he's not getting my money. And the husband said, she not getting my money. You see what I'm saying? How can you have two spenders? Did you know that when you see, you notice when you go to drive your driver's license, you're going to get your driver's license, you ask them who you must write a check to, who they say you must write it to. Minister of Finance. All the money go up there and he allocate it back. You understand? He allocate it back to the people who fix the road. You understand? He allocate it back to those who put up the signs. You see? He allocated, so the money goes to one channel. Although you go up in Pickering or Scarborough or wherever and go renew your license, you pay to Minister of Finance. And the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Finance, but this is named Flattery.
Flattery. Flattery.
He gets the money, and then he said, okay, I'm going to give Quebec so much, eh? And I'm going to give Ontario so much, and the Premier of Ontario said, okay, I'm going to give the Board of Education so much. You see what I'm saying? They allocate, but where does all the money go through? Minister of Finance. And that is why in relationships, maybe I'm confusing you here, but one thing in relationship, there are some things in order for it to work, when it's not working, you have to make sure, even if your position of authority is not clearly defined who is in charge, there are some aspects of relationship that must be clearly defined. Which one of us is better at money? Which one of us is better at money? And if you know your wife better than you with money, the mother says she's not going to touch your money.
Let her be Minister of Finance.
See? Admit it. But don't let me confuse you. What I'm saying, certain aspect, if the whole position of authority cannot be defined, let certain aspects be defined. Through who will allocate money. You know, when I was young, my father would work money and just come home and give to my father. Boom. And my mother allocate the money. Say, okay, you take this for your lunch. Oh, the boys need some shoes. You understand? So she would allocate. He spent too. He got his money. But she allocate out the money. So if you have a problem in a relationship, right, you probably cannot clearly define every aspect of the relationship, but the parts that are, the areas that are breaking down the relationship in order to fix it. Like if you have money problem, in order to fix that, you may have to come with a clear definition of how money is going to be spent at home. And I know that is easier said than done. Because I'm working with this couple, as I tell you, and nobody's budget. Not giving her his money, she not giving him. So I don't even know what I'm going to do to develop some trust. So that's the other one I want to talk about, trust. In order to trust, you have to forgive. I would talk to this gentleman, and I said to him, why don't you, since you have a problem managing your money, why don't you let your wife manage it. Who, me? One time I give her $3,000 to put out, to buy a car. And when I go for the car, she give me 800. Me? Never. You have to learn to forgive. You see what I'm saying? Trust. You cannot trust without forgiveness. In a relationship, you have to forgive every day. Am I not speaking the truth? If you cannot forgive in a relationship, if you cannot relate without forgiveness, you have to forgive. And you know one thing, one day I forgive my wife, I always look to see how I contribute to the problem. How did I contribute to this? I probably should not have said anything. Isn't it true? Forgiveness. If you cannot forgive. One thing I tell my church is, the people who are going to hurt you most are the people who are closest to you. Have I ever hurt any of you in here? Eh?
Yeah, close.
I'm not close to you. But maybe Pastor Jim has hurt somebody in here. Because he's close to you. Am I not right? That's how life works. The closest person to you is the person who's going to hurt you. Who else is going to hurt you when your wife? She's going to hurt you. Bad. You don't even want to go home.
Open caps. That's what we all hear, right?
Somebody who's far from you can't hurt you. Did you know many times you hear about the shooting? What do you think these guys around town know who do what? Because they came across each other same time. That's why they shoot each other and they can't forgive. But they come across each other, that's why they know. That's why I'm surprised to hear when somebody gets shot in Turner and I come at certain places and somebody can tell me exactly who shoot the person. They know exactly. They sometimes even knew it was going down before it happened. And I would say, why didn't you talk? They know because they are close to each other. And sometimes it's shocking to know that these two people who used to go to school together, and many of them used to play basketball together, games together, have fun together, because the person's closest to them, they hurt them, and they can't. So the person closest to you is the one that's going to hurt you, and you have to forgive. Forgiveness. Okay, I'm coming down. Promise not to be long, and I'm going to. Let me finish. Lastly, expectation. One of the disappointments in relationship is when you don't meet the person's expectation. A young lady emailed me the other day, contacted me on Facebook. She said, I'm not with my husband anymore. I don't love him anymore. I said, why? She said, it's not what I was expecting. I said, but you have 3 kids. I already together. She said, yes, but it's not what I was expecting. When the person don't meet your expectation, whatever it is, it just destroys the relationship. And that can mean anything. Can mean that, boy, she thought you would be earning a little more money. Am I not right? Because when the person didn't meet your expectation, it can be anything. That's where you talk to the person. Maybe how you dress around the house. Familiarity breeds contempt. When people are familiar with you, they don't honor you. And they see you when you're sleeping. She will see you when you like a piece of old shorts walking around the house. She see you dress and she see you judging. Everybody at church see you nicely dressed up at church. But she see you in every condition. She even see you when you're on the throne. So she don't have that kind of respect for you like everybody else. She see you when you're here, when you're not shaved. You see what I'm saying? And therefore, you're not going to get the same level of respect. So don't go around demanding respect. And then lastly, so expectation, behaviors. Behavior, how do you respond? One of the, I have, as I tell you about my son, he's a very talented boy. But my son is a kind of boy who, he has so many talents. He's such a gifted kid. But, maybe some of you might see him come even to church. He sometimes in the house for a week, he doesn't talk, you don't hear his mouth. He comes in and he goes straight to his room. He doesn't want to go anywhere. I brought him to USA so for a basketball game for a few days. Everybody went out shopping. He didn't leave the hotel. He's just in there on his computer. He stick to that screen. I don't know how, from 2 in the morning to 2 the next morning. He's just there. But when that boy begins to talk, you don't hear his mouth from Monday. Right through, you don't hear him Saturday, you sleep all day Saturday. You see when he wake up Sunday morning, he don't want nobody to talk. He's the most boring person. And he don't want you to say nothing. He wants the whole world to listen to him. And I said to him, your wife is going to be disappointed with you because you are an extremist. Extremism is one of the problems in relationship. He's an extremist. Did you know a lot of us men are extremists? You in here, you're guilty. Somebody here. You either don't talk.
I talk too much.
She want to talk to you. Where you coming from? You're not in the mood to talk. Extremist. And then there's another time when you start to talk, now you are trying to sit down and listen to you. Because you're ready to talk now. And I'm trying to get that out of my son. He's too much of an extremist. He just don't talk. I'm telling you, even summer holidays, some of them, the boy is in the house all day. I don't see me pass by. When he come down, he didn't see me. No more, nothing for the rest of the day. He does not watch TV. Nothing. Just in his room. And if you're talking to him, he's just silent. And when you think you're done, but many times he start talking, you wish you had a switch. To switch him off. So I conclude tonight. Remember, I said too many things. God made us to relate with us. God gave up his work to relate with us. We have to give up to relate to the people around us. Remember, our positions of authority is not clearly defined. But we have to work it out and work with each other to make it work. It's clearly defined in the workplace, it's not clearly defined at home. And so, remember, maybe she didn't meet your expectation. But maybe you never met hers either. Maybe you didn't meet her. Remember, the only way you can is to forgive. And if you can forgive often, you have won.